Hello fringers, today we're making this Sassy Ruffles Scarf, a playful, eye-catching accessory that adds instant personality to your winter wardrobe. Its bold look comes from a tiny, repeating, ruffled motif, and using my breakaway crochet techniques, you'll work all the motifs continuously in a smooth, satisfying flow. And yes, this is the perfect project for that lone skein of sock yarn you've been saving. So, raid your stash and let's have a closer look at what we will be making. So we have little individual motifs that are basically a circle, but they've got a lot of extra stitches in to make it ruffle around the edges. We will be working 4 to a row by 28, but this is very easily modifiable. If you want something longer or wider, that's very easy to do. Also, to get the ruffle to behave as it does, we are using a special kind of a Y stitch to get that to happen. And of course, each ruffle motif starts with one of my special breakaway stitches, which makes it possible to work all the little motifs continuously and join as you go. So let's start the very first ruffle motif with one of those special stitches I just mentioned, which is called a floating double crochet. So to make a floating double crochet, start with a yarn over and then make a floating ring. To make a floating ring, do a yarn over and pinch the yarn close to the hook. Do another yarn over and draw this new yarn in with what you're already pinching. You've got 2 pinched loops. Finish the floating ring with another yarn over and pull through the 2 pinched loops. And these 2 loops here, got to be kind of gentle with it to show you. Those 2 loops there are the floating ring. We will be working all the stitches for this little motif through both of those loops, and it's what replaces a magic ring or chain 4 slip stitch. And it's also what enables us to work all the motifs continuously. Now, since this is a floating double crochet, we need to do the floating crochet, or the double crochet part. And to do that, we use the loops that are already on the hook. So just continue with yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and there is your floating double crochet. Continue the start of this motif with 2 chains and a double crochet into the floating ring. So remember, we've got to find these 2 loops at the bottom of the first double crochet, and that's where we work the second double crochet into. Continue with chain 2. And now here is the second special stitch, which I'm calling a Y stitch. To do a Y stitch, start by making just a double crochet into the floating ring. Next, chain 2. And now we're going to work a single crochet into these 2 loops here, the first chain of the last double crochet we've made. So just inserting the hook through those, not through the floating ring, but through these 2 loops here, and work a single crochet. So that is a Y stitch. It's a little bit hard to see because it's a little bit bunched up at the top there, but that's how you do a Y stitch. Continue with chain 2, another Y stitch, again, which is just a double crochet, chain 2, and a slip stitch through those first two, or through the first chain. And I like to kind of aim or kind of go sideways like this. That helps me get through those two loops a little bit smoothly. So there we go. We've got 2 double crochets, chain 2, Y stitch, chain 2, Y stitch. Let's do another chain 2, another Y stitch. Okay, so that's basically gotten us a quarter of the way round the first little ruffle. So 2 double crochets, the chain 2 in between, chain 2, Y stitch, chain 2, Y stitch, chain 2, Y stitch. Now we're going to start what I'm calling a Y stitch group, which is basically just 4 more Y stitches with the chain 2 between each one. So after this Y stitch, go straight in without any chains, do another Y stitch, chain 2, just repeat that with Y stitch, chain 2, and just end with a Y stitch at the end of this group. Okay, so it's a little bit hard to see because it wants to ruffle up, which is of course what it's supposed to do. But this group of Y stitches is 1, 2, 3, 4 Y stitches, chain 2 in between each one, but just ending with a Y stitch. Alright, so we have reached the breakaway point on this first ruffle motif, so that means it's time to continue on to the next one in the row. And to do the next one, we do exactly the same thing we've done for this first one, starting with the floating double crochet, chain 2, double crochet into the floating ring, chain 2, Y stitch, chain 2, Y stitch, another chain 2, Y stitch, there we go, that's a quarter of the way around. Continue with the Y stitch group. Again, that starts straight away without any chains between the 2 Y stitches. We do another Y stitch, chain 2, and so on until we get to the 4th Y stitch in this group. There we go. Again, that gets us halfway around this little ruffle. Oh, there's our first 2 ruffles. Continue making 2 more ruffles, which gets us to the end of the first foundation row. And now that we have finished this first foundation row, it's time to head back the other way. We don't turn the work, we just keep it face up, make our way back down this way to finish up these first 3 motifs of this return row. And this last one, we only work a little bit. So let's go through that now. And it's no big change really. All we do for each of these first 3 ruffles is to work 2 more of the Y stitch groups. Alright, so just start in with the first Y stitch group. And after that last Y of that Y stitch group, work another Y stitch group. And just remembering there should not be any chain twos between these Y stitch groups, and you'll see why that helps us in just a second. There we go. So I've done the last Y stitch. I've got essentially 4 groups of Y stitch groups. And to close this ruffle motif off, what we do is put a slip stitch between the one we're working on now and the one that's coming up next. So just crochet a slip stitch. Just find where it looks like the two are coming together, and that has closed off that little ruffle there. Yeah, continue in just the same way with 2 more groups of Y stitches, slip stitch between, and the same thing for this one. Just make sure before you start a new group, things aren't twisted on this first row. Things can get kind of go twisty there. So I'll continue working that, and I'll meet you when I get back to this very first or last, whichever way you're looking at it, motif here at the end of the row. And now to finish this row, all I need to do is work 1 more Y stitch group on this last motif here. And that's that first return row finished. And again, we don't want to completely finish this motif on the left hand edge. We do that at the end, so don't worry that you haven't come all the way around. All right, so we don't go all the way around because that gets us in the right position for us to come and join up this little ruffle that's going to go just north of the one we were just working on. All right, so let's continue by starting a foundation row, and this very first one again starts just like we've been doing before, the floating double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, chain 2, and 3 Y stitches with 2 chains in between each one. There we go, and that is as far as we're going just on this very first little ruffle of this second row. So essentially, again, just a quarter of the way around, because now we're going to head over and start the second one. Start that in just the same way. Okay, and just for the sake of things, even though it's not technically a Y stitch group, I'm going to call it a Y stitch group. As essentially you do have 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of groups of stitches there. And when you get to this point, we've got to start joining in. Okay, so let me get organized here. But with this ruffle here that we've just started, we need to join that in to the one that's going to be just below it. Okay, so in the instructions I'm telling you to make a join between the 4th and 5th Y stitch group behind the hook. So what I mean by that is, if you spread things out and count 1, 2, 3, 4, you've got 4 and 5 here on this motif, and if you kind of pry apart, you can see where the two kind of transition from one to the other. So you find that space that doesn't have the chain 2. See, with these there's more room with this one, They're right next to each other, so that makes it easy to find, okay? And that's where you slip stitch into. So here we go. Let's do that officially. Count back 1, 2, 3, 4. And after that fourth group, find where there's a smaller space. Put your hook in. Shove everything over to the left. And do a kind of a backwards slip stitch to join that up. And that's joined that one in. And just continue with another Y stitch group. Which again gets us halfway around this second little ruffle motif. Okay, and again it's time to go on and break away to the next one. So working these last two just like we did this one here, with starting off with that Y stitch group, except the first stitches are the double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. Join it in, work the other quarter with another Y stitch group. So basically Y stitch group, join, Y stitch group, break away, start another one. So here's how things should look at the end of this foundation row. Got this first ruffle here. It's only been worked a quarter of the way around with basically one Y stitch group, and each of these have 2 Y stitch groups with a join in between each one into the motif just below. So this project is sort of forgiving, so if you're not going exactly into the right place, it might not show up, but I guess do the best you can. Okay, so now that this foundation row is done, that kind of sets up our pattern. We come back with another return row and we finish it off just like we did before with 2 groups of Y stitch groups on each motif with a slip stitch in between. So Y stitch group, Y stitch group, slip stitch, Y stitch group, Y stitch group, slip stitch. And of course, on the last one here, just 1 Y stitch group, and then you go up to the next row of ruffles. So I'm going to go ahead and add in, or finish this return row, and add in another row of motifs, and then we'll finish things off. And just for the sake of this tutorial, that's as far as I'm going to work. I've just got 3 rows of ruffles. You will have 28 rows, or go longer if you want. Alright, but for now that's shown you all the basics anyway, so I don't need to work the whole thing. So the only thing left to do now is to finish off all these motifs that are on the left edge. So basically, these ones here, if you just turn the work, all you're basically doing is working as if you're doing a return row. As you've already gone basically halfway around here, you just need to do the other half, slip stitch, so on. And when you get to the very last one here, you only need to do 1 group of Y stitches here. Okay, so just to recap, you're doing a Y stitch group here, Y stitch group, slip stitch, Y stitch group, Y stitch group, slip stitch, Y stitch group, and then slip stitch into the next stitch to close this motif off, and you're done. And that brings us to the end of this video. Please write in if there was something that wasn't very clear to you. I'll try to help. You can also join my Breakaway Chat and Support group on Facebook. You'll find a link to that in the description. But for now, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.